A couple of years ago, my husband and I realized we wanted a more independent lifestyle, less supporting large corporations and more rooted in self-reliance and our local community. At first, the change felt really overwhelming, so we decided to take one small step, gardening, and honestly, we have fallen in love with it. Starting was the hardest part. Social media made me feel like I'd already failed, but the truth is, if you have dirt, a seed, and water, you can grow something. I hope these casual little garden tours inspire someone out there to join in the backyard gardening fun, or as we like to call it, passive rebellion, and take one more step towards an independent, self-reliance, and healthier lifestyle. Hi friends, and welcome back to A Moment with Hales. I am finishing some mini backyard homesteading chores here on this Friday night. I just collected eggs from my chickens, and I wanted to record a quick video just to share with you guys as the 2025 gardening season is coming to a close, the biggest mistakes I made in this gardening season. So this is my 4th year going on gardening. I'm still very much a beginner, but I made some pretty big mistakes this year. I think with expanding, I got a little bit excited, and I feel like on social media, we like to show the highs. Of course, I like to show all the bountiful harvest from my garden and all the beautifulness, but I did make quite a few mistakes, so I would like to share them with you guys to help you avoid them and not make them yourself. And if you're a beginner gardener, maybe help inspire you to show you that you're allowed to fail, you're allowed to make mistakes. When it comes to gardening, the biggest thing is just trying and getting started. So let's jump in and talk about the problems that I had in my 2025 gardening season. So first and foremost, this is where my corn was planted this year. I planted 2 rows of corn along the backside of this fence. Unbeknownst to me, that sweet corn actually is pollinated by the wind. So if you put sweet corn in a row, it will not pollinate like it should. You really should plant sweet corn in like a square shape, so when the wind blows, they can pollinate one another. So I did not know that. I planted my sweet corn in 2 rows, and they still produced corn, but they were very, very small. So if you're planting sweet corn, they recommend doing it in squares, not in a couple of rows. The second thing that I learned, which I should have learned from last year, but this is not enough space for watermelon. If you're gonna grow watermelon, like the big, huge watermelons, you really need a ton of space. We were really disappointed in our watermelons this year, and I think it's because I just got really overzealous and I planted, I think, 8 watermelon plants back here. The other thing is, I never thought of this. I saw this on TikTok. A girl had a harvest of watermelon, and they weren't not ripe, but they weren't all the way ripened, but she made watermelon lemonade out of them. And I thought that was so smart because she used it. It wasn't all the way ripe, but it was still sweet enough where she could make them lemonade. And then what you can do is freeze them in ice cube trays and go ahead and just have them to drink all throughout the winter, something sweet and summery. So we have 2 watermelons inside that we picked that aren't super ripe, but I am gonna use them for watermelon lemonade because I thought that was a great tip. So I know I've spoken about cucamelons many a times, but we did cucamelons this year and they trellis like crazy. I think I planted, I want to say 6 plants on each side of the trellis. If you end up doing cucamelons ever, you definitely can do way less. They trellis like crazy. If you've never seen a cucamelon, that's what they look like, little tiny watermelons almost. They don't taste the best, I'm not gonna lie, they weren't my favorite, but if you want a showstopper and you need something divine, the cucamelon is a good way to go. Just, you really don't need to plant that many, and I definitely learned that in this gardening season. So a big lesson that I learned this year, well, you know what? I'm not gonna claim this mistake. This was my husband's mistake, I'm just gonna say, but don't skimp on the cattle panel trellises. But we had cucumbers on one side and melons or cantaloupes on the other side, and it completely collapsed. We've used this trellis before. I think this is our 2nd year that we use something similar to this, or reuse this from another side of our garden. And when it just had cucumbers on it, it did okay. But I think with the extra weight, it didn't work out this year, and it was really disappointing to me because I think we would have continued to have cucumbers until the end of probably August. It was beautiful, it was flourishing. I've never had cucumbers do so well, but it is what it is. You learn from your mistakes and move forward. I love vertical gardening. That is a recommendation that I would make. I didn't start vertical gardening until last year. I love it. Things that climb and trellis, the things you can get up off the ground, I feel like make it so much easier to keep bugs out, to help keep disease down, to prune. I love vertical gardening. If I could have trellises in my whole garden, I would. Maybe I will next year. So anyways, just don't skimp, get the cattle panel. I highly recommend it. Another suggestion I would make in regards to trellising, this bed, you can see it's a very wide bed. Looking back, when I am trying to dig into the trellis. Basically, I have the trellis here, I had the peppers here, and I had sunflowers. So I was literally having to crawl into my garden to be able to prune around the melons. So if you're going to do a trellis, I recommend doing a smaller garden bed just for that specific item so you can work within that and not have to crawl through other plants to get to your trellis. So I would do half of this bed, or maybe even a little less than half if you're gonna go ahead and just have a trellis. Small bed, big trellis. I think the results will be amazing, and you're not having to climb through a jungle with all the bugs and the grossness when you're trying to prune your plant. This is supposed to be an indeterminate tomato. I see no difference from the indeterminate tomatoes to whatever I guess regular tomato plants are. When they say they climb, I just don't even know what they're talking about. So I must have done something incorrectly. So if you love indeterminate tomatoes, please tell me why and what I did wrong, because I didn't see them trellis or vine or anything. I thought they were gonna climb. They flopped over just like every other tomato plant that I've planted before. So if you're looking for something that's gonna climb as far as a tomato plant goes, I thought indeterminate tomatoes were supposed to, but someone informed me what I did incorrectly. Also, I would say overall, this was a rough year for tomatoes. It's not just me. I think the internet has been saying that. But this tomato plant did fabulously. And if you look, it's just in this tiny, well, it's not tiny, but small pot. It really doesn't have a ton of dirt in it. I did replenish it a little bit throughout the summer season, but you can see there are quite a few tomatoes. Wow, still growing. A few more have come out. They've just taken a long time, but if you have a small space and you want to grow some tomato plants in pots, definitely, I mean, I think it works. It worked for me this year, even with a tough tomato season. So I would definitely say 10 out of 10 as far as it's been making the decision to grow tomato plants in pots. If we ever move again to doing tomatoes in our actual garden beds, I would recommend having some sort of system, not just tomato cages, but some sort of system like string or something woven between them for them to stand up, because tomato plants get a lot taller than you think they're going to do, and they tend to flop over like this one is here. But if you're going to do tomatoes in a garden bed like this one, I would recommend definitely having some sort of stringing system between, so they have something to rely on and stand up on as they continue to grow. I had never grown peppers before, and it was recommended to me to use the tomato cages for them because they grow as tall as the tomato cages. So you can see here, I used a little bit of twine just between them, kind of desperate, but the peppers are growing, which is exciting. I've never had successful peppers until this year, but you'll see this one here has bent over. So it definitely needs some sort of support, and I think a tomato cage would be a great recommendation given to me by, I'm trying to remember his handle. I think it's Gary Grows a Garden or Gary Grows Food. I'll tag it so you guys can see it, but he did give me the recommendation, and I think that's a great idea to use tomato cages when it comes to peppers. I've also said it before when I've done my garden tours, but I do recommend starting the zinnias in seed trays. I was thinking, oh, that's so silly. I live in Virginia. They'll grow really fast. They did not. They took forever. And I love having them, and I hope they last a little while. But definitely, if you're starting zinnias, I would recommend starting them in seed trays in the spring so you can enjoy them a little bit more in the fall and summer. And of course, one of my recommendations for your garden would be to partner with one of my partners. So first we have at Bird Feed, here we have a smart bird bath. So there's usually a cute little fountain coming out the middle of it. It's powered by solar. So right now the sun is not hitting it, but usually it's really cute. And there's a camera in there, and birds, when they go in there and take a little bath, you can see them from your cell phone and watch their cute little experience. They also have bird feeders as well and other bird products. So their link is in my bio. If you'd like to make a purchase, definitely check them out there. I think they're having a sale right now, so it might be a good time to pick up your smart bird bath or smart bird feeder, or it's not too early for Christmas. So a cute little Christmas gift for that bird lover that you know or gardener that you know, or one for yourself for your fall 2025 garden. My other partner is King's Yard. They have squirrel-proof bird feeders, which I have one here. It's super easy to operate, to open and refill. The birds have loved it. I see a cardinal actually hanging out there pretty much every morning now that it knows it's there. But we're doing a 20% discount with my code MOMENT20. The link is also in my bio if you do want to go ahead and pick up a King's Yard squirrel-proof bird feeder for a bird watcher. They also have other products too, so definitely check it out. Again, a great idea for Christmas while you're getting your discount. So we have King's Yard bird feeder, and then we have Bird Fee for the smart bird bath, and then also other bird smart products as well. So make sure you check them out. Links are in bio. Okay friends, so we are going to finish with rapid fire of the mistakes I made in my 2025 garden because I am getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. I'm also literally running out of sunlight. So let's just go through these. I would recommend getting ladybugs in the spring. I didn't know what that was about. I didn't know why you would do that. They help get rid of aphids. They help keep cucumber beetles down and a lot of other pests that you don't want in your garden. Next year, I'm gonna buy as many ladybugs as I can. I don't know if there's if there's like a capped out amount, someone can let me know, but definitely I recommend buying ladybugs. They're great to put in your garden. If you see them, love them. Another mistake I made when we were putting in our new garden beds, because we expanded this year, I still didn't put them far enough apart. So I do have a video of raised beds 101 or something on my playlist if you want to check it out. I recommend keeping them far enough apart if you are going to put them on the grass that you can mow your lawn. But if you're going to do something like this where we have wood chips in between, things just grow up so much bigger than you would expect. So I would definitely space them further apart. Than these ones were actually okay this far apart, so I don't know how far this is. My husband does all the measuring, but I would maybe do a tad bigger. So when in doubt, just spread them apart a little bit more than you might think you need to. The other recommendation I would make is with our garden beds, they're very, very tall, which is fine. It's not a bad thing. When you fill them, I do a raised bed fill. I show you how to fill them as well with the raised beds too, if you want to check that out. But next time we do beds, I'm not sure when we're going to add more beds, but if we do, I want to do some shorter ones that are more square, like more like plots. So we don't have to fill them with as much dirt. Might be better, especially when it comes to wind pollination and that type of thing. Something that I always say I'm going to do and I never do, but I wish I would have this year, is succession planting throughout the season. So in the spring, sometimes we get really excited and we just want to start as many seeds as we can. That's what I do. I tend to do too many because I like to give them away or sell them. But succession planting is really important, and you can start seeds a little bit later in the season. You don't have to be stressed out about it. You can start seeds later in the season and go ahead and bring them out mid-June, mid-July. Especially I'm in zone 7B, so we have a really long gardening season. If I would have brought tomatoes out maybe a month ago, I could have had maybe a better tomato harvest because they would have done better in this season at the end of the season than they would have done at the beginning. Same thing with cucumbers. I mean, really anything you can succession plant. So don't stress too much about starting 1,000 seedlings at the beginning of spring. You can definitely start a good amount and then start your second round, third round, and possibly wherever you live, maybe a fourth round, so you can really get the most harvest out of your season. And you can put new plants in as other ones die off, or if you get a rainstorm or if something breaks and falls or whatever, you will have kind of backup seedlings. It takes the pressure off in your gardening, but then also it helps you get a better harvest. Also, just some feedback. This year was the first year we used a big compost scoop to fill our garden beds. Usually I use Pro Mix. I love Pro Mix. I'm still very pro Mix. It's just very expensive. You are going to be doing a bunch of beds. I do recommend trying to find a landscaping company, see if they have organic compost that you can get scooped from and put in the bed of a truck and fill it. It's much cheaper. But I wish what we would have done is topped it off with Pro Mix. So I have bought some Pro Mix for my fall garden. So I'm going to be topping off these beds with Pro Mix. It grows really well. We didn't have any issues with growing. Everything was really great. I did notice there were more weeds in it than we've had before, but I don't know if stuff grew out of the organic compost. It could have, I guess. The Pro Mix, nothing grew out of, so it was really easy to work in. It also wasn't as clumpy and like mud-like. Like this is much more muddy and dirty, where Pro Mix is a little more airy and light and easier to work with. So I liked having Pro Mix. It was just a little bit more clean when I was out in the garden, which might not be the goal, but for me, I really enjoyed it. So if you are going to fill garden beds, make sure you check out a local landscaping place, see if they have organic compost that you can use to fill your garden beds. I know too, some places do, like different cities will give compost out from the Parks and Recreation Department, I think. So make sure you look in your area. You can, again, start your garden very inexpensively. It doesn't have to be super, super expensive to start your garden. You can do a smaller garden bed with compost that you get from somewhere donated or from a landscaping company, where I think one scoop was like $45. One scoop would fill up probably 2 of these garden beds once you put everything else in it. Also, a tip from me to you, I like to throw my tomatoes in the freezer so until I'm ready to use them to make salsa or sauce. So if you get a really big harvest and you're overwhelmed and you don't have time to make something right away, throw them in the freezer. When you thaw them out, they'll still be just as good, I think, for the salsa or for the marinara sauce or whatever you're going to be making. It's definitely an easy way to preserve, to kind of put everything away till you're ready to preserve it. And finally, last tips, herbs. I don't know why I waited 4 years to start growing herbs. Herbs are amazing. I loved my herb garden. I did dill, which I used for pickles. I froze some of it when I was getting a ton of it. I've used that for pickles. The dill seed, I've used those for pickles. The flowers, I've used those for pickles. The dill, it grew up so nicely. I was able to save seeds super easy. That was really fun. Basil, I have grown basil for 4 years now. Basil's amazing. You can make so much pesto with it. One basil plant will give you so much basil. Bruschetta, it's great to add on any meal. I love basil. I also did lemon balm and mint. Now a tip for lemon balm, for me, lemon balm took over my eucalyptus area, which I was kind of bummed about because I was growing eucalyptus, but lemon balm spreads like crazy. I love lemon balm. I'm making a tincture out of it. My friend's actually making it. I grew everything for it. I made iced tea with lemon balm. I've made warm tea with lemon balm. I have a bunch of it drying. It's good for, I believe it's anxiety and calming. So lemon balm is great. I have spearmint and mint that I grew. That did well. The eucalyptus did really well till the lemon balm overtook it. Oregano, I grew that as well. They grow so easy, you guys. And a recommendation that I was given is to do them in individual pots or in hanging planters because they do take over the bed that they're in. I just let my herb bed kind of go crazy this year, which was really fun. But I think if I want to be successful for the next few years, I might have specific areas for my different herbs so they can go crazy in the pot that they're in and let everything else still grow around it. And I think that's all I have, friends. So I am going inside because, again, like I said, I'm getting eaten alive out here. My chickens are going in. I'm going to tuck them in for the night. I hope this helps you guys with some recommendations of the mistakes that I've made, and hopefully it will help avoid those mistakes for you guys. If you've been gardening for a while and you have any tips or tricks for me, again, this is only my 4th year of gardening and I'm trying to learn as I go. I learn by experience and I learn through making mistakes. So please comment below any recommendations or tips that you have. I would love to hear from you. I hope you had a great 2025 gardening season. I did. I'm excited for my fall garden and to see what 2026 brings us. Well, thanks for watching, friends, and I'll be talking to you soon.